over the past week, images surfaced about allegations of underage voters being registered in parts of the country, and that has put INEC sort of on the defensive, trying to explain what's happening. A lot of people have a lot of questions. We're going to be kicking off our show today on that note, you know, to sort of get hopefully some answers and assuage the fears of some Nigerians or many Nigerians as to what's going on. We're joined now from our Abuja studios by the Director of Voter Education and Publicity for the INEC, Victor Aluko. Thanks a lot for joining us. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Very quickly now, just to put that question I just talked about straight to you now. I know the INEC has tried to explain that, oh, it's great that Nigerians have pointed this out, and Nigerians should please let them know if they see any more discrepancies as the voter register has been made public. And the question has now been put forward, oh, you did this in parts of the country without the help of the public, and now this is happening and you need Nigerians to help with this. Yes, it's a good thing for Nigerians to help, but I mean, the fact that we've got here has got a lot of people worried, and if certain things are not spotted, how does the INEC fix this before February? You know, what sort of assurances are you giving Nigerians?
Thank you, Ebuka. It's 96 days to the general election now, and INEC is excited about the level of interest of stakeholders of the Nigerian people about the election that is coming. About the issue of the register. The register is an essential part of the election. Without a voter's register, you cannot conduct any election. By law, we are expected, and of course, it's compulsory, to display the register. If you look at Section 19, 1 and 2 of the Electoral Act, it's a directive. We're not doing it whimsically. We're not just doing it because we just want to do it. It's a directive, and it's mandatory for us to display the register that will be used for the election. And we display the register for Nigerians to scrutinize the register. If you actually read that portion of the Electoral Act, it says we'll display the register for public scrutiny. So the register is meant to be scrutinized by Nigerians. And it implies that Nigerians have a role in ensuring that the register is finally cleaned up as should be. INEC did its part by compiling the register. The register has been compiled since 2011. You remember during the 2019 election, we had 84 million registered voters. Over the period when we had CVR, we have been able to add now 0.5 million to the registered voters. Now we have a preliminary list which we displayed for Nigerians to look at. Look at that register. If you find any errors, there are procedures for notifying INEC about those errors. So there's nothing wrong in the interest people have shown. There's nothing wrong in the things people have told us that they saw. What we are saying is people rushing to the social media to complain. No. You need to complain through the right procedures, through the right channels. And
all right, sorry to cut you in there.
That is in our offices, in the local government areas. Just get to our revision officers and notify us. Currently, from yesterday to next Friday, we will be having what we call claims and objections in our local government offices. People can easily go to those offices and make their claims. And also,
all right, sir, we get that. I just wanted to, sorry to jump in here. Just sorry to jump in here. I get your point, and I think it's a very good thing. And of course, we thank Nigerians who have spotted these things. But you also know that these fears are not unfounded. This is not the first time we've had stories about underage voters. In the past, we've seen pictures surface on election day of literal children on the queues trying to vote. So that fear is not unfounded. And seeing this now, we live in a country where there are no repercussions. Who let this happen again is one question I think I need to know. You had people registering in this part of the country. How did this happen? And what's the assurance that the voter register will be cleaned up completely of this?
I assure you that the register will be cleaned up completely. And no underage voter will vote in 2023. I can assure you. After we finish with the claims and objections on Friday, the register will be taken in again for further cleaning based on the complaints of the people. That's why it's important that persons who notified any issues at all with the register should complain through the right channels. where they can be documented. And then our revision officers at various levels can work on these complaints. That's what we are saying. If you complain and you do not let us know that complaint, then how do we work on the complaints? That's why I'm saying that we take in the register and then we work on the register, and at the end of the day, we have a very clean register as we prepare for the general election. And I'm assuring you, no underage person will come to our polling unit to come and vote on election day.
All right, I'm going to come back to you, sir, but I'm here in the studio with the founder of Wheeland Global, Abosede George Ogan. Thanks for joining us, Abosede.
Thank you very much.
You hear that, do you feel confident enough, seeing what you've seen, and like I said, with the precedents that's been set over time, unfortunately, and seeing all of these images now, and just a few we've seen, there's probably a lot more like that. Are you feeling confident, going forward?
So, I mean, I think what I would say is, the credit we will give to INEC is, I think there's a few sort of milestones and signaling, right, that shows that INEC is committed to ensuring that we get the electoral process right? So from starting CVR early, I think that there will be a significant challenge with underage children showing up on an election day because of the bimodal voters registration process. So that's the BVAS, right? The accreditation system that INEC has. Because if you are actually underage and you showed up, first of all, there is a physical identification that this is a child. They shouldn't be in a position to vote. But beyond that, if, for example, that process has been doctored in a way where it's not your fingerprint or your face recognition, then it poses a discrepancy and it actually disqualifies that person. So I think to that degree, based on the system that INEC has put in place, I'm feeling pretty confident. But I do agree with you that this is not what we want to be seeing. And even though there's a claims and objection process, really, what is the guarantee that before the election, that voter register will be completely clean? Yeah. However, like I said, there seems to be another layer potentially of validation, right, at the on the day of election, where if you show up and you cannot verify that you are the registered voter, or people can identify you physically that you're an underage child, then you will not vote. Yeah. So that gives me a certain level of confidence.
Yeah, and I agree with that, but I think the fear people have is that this system is amazing. I mean, everybody's excited about the new Electoral Act. Most people have thanked Mr. President for sort of, changing the game in how elections will run. But this system is also run by people.
That's right.
And people probably registered these underage people already.
Yes.
What's the guarantee that these people would not go ahead and do the same thing on the day? So I think that's where people's worry is coming from.
I think that's very valid. And so what INEC needs to do to go a step further is to signal that seriousness, that if they have to let go of people, fire somebody, make somebody accountable, right, for those errors. And I know that the INEC chairman has verbally committed to that, but I think we would need to see action where that is confirmed, right, to give Nigerians even more confidence about the process.
Let me go back to Victor Aluko in Abuja. Sir, I want to know, what sort of mechanism is put in place now for election day? Because like I said, in the past, what we've seen are things happening on the day of elections. We assume, hopefully, Nigerians are going to report what they can report, but even on the day things like this happen, what should a Nigerian do?
And the important thing is that for the elections, we will train all our presiding officers very well, the assistant presiding officers, those who will actually conduct the elections in the polling units. On election day, the action will be in the polling units. That's where voters we go to get identified before they will vote. And so we will train our officials to be able to accredit voters the way they should be accredited, as the madam you were speaking to noted. We are going to use the new system which we call biometric voter accreditation system. We will not only be checking your fingerprints, we also check your faces if your fingerprints will not validate you. And so there will be a real physical presentation by all voters. I mean, you cannot use another person's card, you cannot impersonate, you cannot do anything. It must be you that will be holding the card that belongs to you. And in that process, I don't see how anybody can play games. I'm assuring you that the system the Commission is bringing will give us the best election in our history. We have worked so much on it, and we hope and we believe it will happen. And we need Nigerians to trust us. We need Nigerians to allow this system to work, to believe in this system, to support the commission. And at the end of the day, there will be observers on the field, from the media, from the civil society organizations, the candidates themselves and their agents will be there, the security agencies will be there. We believe that we'll be able to have a clean system. So anybody that wants to do any wrong thing on election day will not succeed. And that's what we are telling people, that let us have faith in the system. We undertook a major review of the 2019 general election, and we came up with a new system that will make elections cleaner. And that's what Nigerians want, and that's what Nigerians will get.
All right, this is taking things completely off course now, because I saw an interview where Barrister Festus Okoye did talk about, you know, I think the question was put to him about the possibility of a runoff, which there's been whispers about for the first time in this republic. You know, people are saying there might be, things might be too close to call. Maybe no candidate will get the required 25% in as many states or whatever. And I think he said something along the lines of how long it takes INEC to prepare for elections, and 3 weeks might be too short if that happens. And it got some people in a panic. Like, what happens then if there's a runoff? How does INEC prepare for the eventuality of something like this?
That's what we are talking about. If you look at our laws actually provide for such a development. So it's not a new thing. It has not happened in our history, but that does not mean it may not happen. It can just happen. And since 1999, each time we are going for general election, the commission always printed the ballot papers for a possible runoff. It's because we have not really been talking about it. It is good for people to be aware. You know, this is part of civic studies. You know, you remember during the time of George Bush in the US, when somebody won the majority votes and did not win electoral college, and many Americans were turning back to their constitution to really understand what was happening. So in Nigeria, our constitution also provides for such things, that if you have the first election and there's no clear winner, you have to go for a second election. And the constitution provides for who should participate in that second election. So we are drawing attention to it so that people will know we have an election that may be well contested. We expect people to vote en masse. And in that situation, you know, we may have a winner at first ballot. We may not have a winner at first ballot, and we'll go for a second election. We are just trying to draw attention to it so that people will know. And it's good for people to really understand all these things well in advance, so that if it happens, well, it will be easier to handle. If it does not happen, we go ahead. It doesn't really mean it must happen, but it may happen, it may not happen.
All right, I'm going to come back to you now. I mean, you hear that. It's something that people have talked about a lot, you know, the possibility of that happening. And I think it's very important that people understand that, you know, that can be handled if the need arises. Yeah. But I want to ask you a question just about, you know, Nigerians now. You know, there seems to be a different mood, most people think. The number of people who registered, new registrants, is quite amazing, you know, by many levels, you know. But do you get a sense from people about turning out? Because apathy has always been the biggest problem. You know, like you said, there seems to be a little more confidence in INEC than usual. There are people who are still skeptical, of course. But, you know, do you find that the apathy which we've struggled with for so long might be different this time? Because a lot of, you know, this collaboration we're trying to have with INEC so that these elections work needs people to come out.
Exactly. Well, you know what, Ibuka, I think that at this point in our history as a nation, if people are not going to come out to vote, then we are really, really jeopardizing just our fundamental rights. This is now violation against self. And I think it's important for us to say that, right? It is now violation against self. It's now not you doing injustice to the nation, but it's doing injustice to self. Because Nigeria can benefit from good governance and good leadership. But you have to get out and vote, right? And unfortunately, this doesn't happen online. It happens at the polling units. So I think it's very important to establish that fact. However, we have seen increased social consciousness, right? Driven by just the suffering, the sheer suffering that we have collectively had, right? So there's nobody who has been exempted, which is a good thing, because the evidence tells us that how societies transform is through collaboration between the elite and the masses, right? So when you find a time in history where the elite and masses can actually collectively share pain and suffering, it really is an opportunity for transformation. So my point is, we're glad to have seen the action in the voter registration. We need that now to translate, right? People should recognize that it's not a holiday. It's not, you know, come rain, come sun, come shine, especially the elite, right? Because we know this, right? We know that some people will always come out. I mean, look at the elections that have been held in Edo State, in Ekiti, and all these places in Osun. You will see old people queuing. And I think if we take that same, you know, commitment, it's a commitment. It has to be patriotism to say, I'm going to show up on election day and I'm going to vote. So I think that a lot of things are coming together. What I'd like to see, though, is less misinformation and disinformation and more fact-driven conversations and more issue-based arguments. That's what I'd like to see.
Just very, very, very quickly, because we're almost out of time, I want to talk on security, because that's going to affect a lot of things as well. We have things happening in the southeast, in the northeast, in the northwest, in many parts of the country. Most people are not necessarily feeling confident to come out and vote. Are you seeing signs of that abating by then?
So look, I think, first of all, we have an interagency, sort of all the security agencies have a commission, right? And they have committed, right, to doing the right thing. Again, I think it's about accountability. Hold somebody responsible. Find somebody and make them accountable. So the Electoral Act and the Constitution makes provisions for what happens if it is instigated by a party, a candidate. Make sure that somebody is held accountable, and that signals that commitment and seriousness, and also signals to us as Nigerians that you can show up and you will be safe, and you can, you know, cast your vote and go home in peace, because, like you said, it is a valid concern.
Same to you, Mr. Aluko. Very, very quickly, please. What's the INEC doing on that front? You know, we saw what happened in Anambra. The elections were abysmal with the turnout because people were literally just scared to come out and vote. What's INEC doing and saying to Nigerians to assure them that it's safe to come out and vote in certain parts of the country where people currently feel like, you know, on a day like that, things might not necessarily go as well?
We believe that with all our preparations and all our relationship and collaboration with the security agencies, that there should not be any problem. Nobody should be afraid to come out and vote. We are actually planning and preparing for more than 70% turnout. We believe Nigerians will turn out en masse in the forthcoming election. And we are preparing for it. And we believe that the security agencies will secure Nigerians everywhere. So no voter should worry about security. Voters should come out en masse, vote for the candidates for their choice, and we're assuring them that we will count the votes, and whoever Nigerians elect, we will declare the people that Nigerians elect. And of course, we have assured Nigerians that we are using the INEC result viewing portal, so the results will be known quickly. You know, we have the INEC result viewing portal for the first time in our history. We'll be deploying them. We'll be deploying the portal for general election. So there won't be any form of manipulation of results. There won't be any form of rigging. The elections will be clean. The results will come out in time, and Nigerians will know the candidates they have elected. I am telling, and I am on behalf of the Commission, assuring all Nigerians to support the Commission, be hopeful, display a good level of patriotism. This is time for citizens to actually be patriotic, believe in your country, have trust in the Electoral Commission, INEC, and I believe the general elections will really be successful for us as a country.
All right, you heard it here. If you have any issues, hold Mr. Victor Aluko accountable for everything. Thanks for the assurances. I mean, I had 70% turnout there, and I started salivating. I really can't. I mean, it's hard to really believe that, but it would be amazing if that happens, isn't it? Thank you very much for joining us today, sir.